At this time, I'd like to call to order the Municipal Finance Advisory Commission's February 19th, 2025 meeting at 10:02. At this time, I would entertain a motion for approval of the November 20th, 2024 minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any comments or edits? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, next up is an update on the fiscal 2023 and fiscal 2024 audit report submissions. Bill, you want to take it away?
Sure. We did a 4-year look, and maybe it's easier to share the screen. And let's see if it's the right screen showing. Hold on. Yeah, so we kind of broke it down by fiscal year audits and then reports submitted by the December 31st due date versus the 6-month extension period allowed. And then we have the delinquent reports, and we broke that down into ones that were delinquent within a 6-month time period, and those submitted over a year past the December 31st due date. And so the good news is for 2024, we're back to 2021 submission, the number of reports submitted on time being 75, which is not the best, but still an improvement over the last couple of years. And as you can see on the screen, for 21 through 23, we've made some improvements. Now, obviously 24, we're still receiving. So instead of having for February for the 24 reports, we're up to 9 right now. So just checked this morning. And now there are still 5 reports that are outstanding for the 23. We did receive Dan Berry's report earlier in February. And we did a kind of a history of those 15 reports for FY23 that were delinquent, how their submission dates in the past couple of years. And the dark blue represents severely delinquent reports, and light blue is delinquent. And so this is just giving you a brief history of what their submissions have been in the past.
I know we're going to receive updates today, Bill, from East Lyme, Danbury, and Marlboro.
Yes.
Stanford's indicating by the end of February they anticipate submitting.
Yes.
Is any indication on where Wethersfield is at?
We did ask, but we did not really get a date. He just told us, some things that were happening or what they just recently completed, but there was no specific date for issuance.
Okay.
So I'll stop sharing and.
What is currently happening with the 2024 cities and towns that are delinquent? Are they filing for monthly extensions?
Yeah, they're allowed up to 6 months in extensions. So they're submitting extension requests, and we would grant those unless there is something specifically where they haven't informed us as to what they're doing. But as more extension requests are made, further in time, we do scrutinize it more closely.
Okay. for the commissioners, at this time, I would entertain a motion be made that a letter go out on behalf of MFAC to the 5 municipalities with severely delinquent fiscal 2023 audits. Again, the 5 that have been referenced that are still outstanding as of today.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, and under discussion, the letter would be prepared by OPM, and it will emphasize that the audit is now more than a year past the statutory December 31st due date. Okay. All in
Yeah, we will
favor?
draft something.
I just have a question. This is Marcia, and I'm new. So I just don't, we've got East Lyme and Marlboro here. When
And
is it
Danbury.
that, in Danbury, but theirs is in, that, how do we decide who comes to meet with us? We don't have Middletown, Stamford, or Weathersfield here. How do we decide who we meet with, who we don't meet with? Just because some of those didn't know when they were going to have it done, I just didn't know the procedure there.
So we have met with most of those towns and had one-on-one meetings. And when we couldn't see a close time period, let's say within a month or 2, that they would be able to close those, that communication did not come across. And it continued to become more delinquent. Bill and I met with the towns, and the ones that have come forward, you'll see 2 of them definitely have had 3 years of consecutive. And so that is a level of elevation. I think your question is very good, and that so the ones that we've asked to come before the MFAC, it was agreed upon at those meetings as well that those should come forward. So, and Bill and I and we have sent letters to them in the past. It's a standard process.
Okay.
Bill, did I leave anything out?
No, as you recall, we've been meeting with these 3 towns for, I think this is the 2nd or 3rd year, and it's definitely the 2nd year. And obviously, as they were still delinquent, we continued to invite them, as we, would be seeking some improvements before we would stop meeting with them. So it's not a case that they're new, it's just that we've continued. But I think Kim and I were discussing bringing in other towns if they're past the delinquent, for 24 also.
Okay, thank you. I was just trying to understand.
Okay. Great. Any further discussion on the resolution? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, any opposed? I think we're good. Okay, then in regards to the 3 municipalities that we've been meeting with, we'll be looking for updates. We'll start with Danbury. It's great to hear that they did very recently get in their fiscal year 2023 audit report. So do we have Mayor Alves and Finance Director Dan Garrett with us today?
Yes, we do.
Okay. And is your auditor on as well, Scott Bassett?
Don't believe I saw RS Scott or anybody in RSM that works with us on. No, I do not see them on.
Okay. All right, Mayor, it's great to see you. If you'd like, if you can start with an update.
Yeah, it's always great seeing you folks, and I mean that. This has been a busy year. I've now been mayor for a year and two and a half months, and my first month in, there was an MFAC meeting, and I got respectfully scolded as a city, I feel. And I heard you
No.
all loud and clear. No, respectfully. You let me know the severity of what was in front of us, and I made a commitment to you all that we have stuck through. We were able to get 2 audits done in about a 12-month period. Incredibly proud of the team and what they were able to accomplish. Audits aren't easy. I say this internally all the time. Let me say it here to you all. My wife came from the public accounting world. I know what it's like for the folks working on audits on both sides during audit season, but usually it's a season. There's an end. It has been a constant to this team here, and I am so grateful to Dan, Joanne, my chief of staff, Taylor O'Brien, who's really been the lead for my office, working with them. And then when we brought CLA on, we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. We know it's going to be another 12 months or so of a lot of work, but we are committed to it. Like I promised to you before, we have retained CLA to get us through 24. We believe that we will have single audit done, I want to say Friday for 24 now, just looking ahead.
Wow.
And then when these things get started, we know we can accomplish 24 in 6 months and then get 25 done 6 months after that. While, I understand that 24 is late, we'll be on the won't be within that 6-month period, but I'm not going to beat around the bush. Kimberly, remember when we said a long time ago, and I always remember your line, I say it here, is like, if you're going to punch me in the mouth, punch me in the mouth. Right? Well, we're not punching you in the mouth anymore, right? But there's a little nudge happening here, just letting you know that we expect everything to be done within those 6-month traditional time periods, and the light is at the end of the tunnel. We're really excited and appreciate the oversight from this committee. We know you are here to help the municipalities. We welcomed it, and I am here for any questions you all may have. Do you want to hand it over to my finance team, who are the subject matter experts who can get in a little bit more technical if needed?
Okay, and just so I understand, you're anticipating that you would have the 2024 audit done by June of this year?
No, and I can let them fill in. It's 6 months from start, and for it to be a June, that means we'd have to had started a few months back. I think in the past, maybe things like that were set from the city perspective. And again, I'm not beating around the bush. I don't want to throw an estimated date that's wrong, but I think August is probably more realistic. But I'll let Dan and Joanne chime in on that, Michael, if that's okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, we will push as hard as possible to get this done as quickly as possible. But realistically, we're talking August, maybe early September, to have the 24 done. The only correction I would make to what the mayor said is the single audit that we expect to be done by the end of this week is for the 23 single audit.
I apologize.
I think you said the 24.
Yep.
That's sort of wild there. And I didn't want to.
No. Thank you. I meant to say, yeah, thank you. I think I slipped up the trial. That's why I go back to you guys, the SMEs here.
Mhm.
How does 2024 look at this point, though?
As far as the numbers,
Yeah.
we're looking to be about break even. We're trying not to use any of the fund balance that was appropriated in the budget. So without touching appropriated fund balance, we're about a break even.
Okay. All right. I'll open it up to the commissioners. Start with Tony.
I've no questions, Mike. Thank you.
Okay. Marcia.
I have no questions. Thank you.
Glenn.
I have no questions either.
Okay. Becky.
No questions.
Okay. Ed.
Just 25 audit is kind of what the plan is for that going forward as well, since we're quickly approaching June 30th.
Right. So in September, once we finish the 24 audit, we'll jump right into 25, just like we're doing now. We finished 23, we're jumping right into 24. I'd like to say we would be done by the end of December, but I don't think that's realistic. Hopefully we wouldn't be using more than a 2-month extension on the 25 audit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Diane. Has Diane joined us? Not yet. Okay. Okay. Mayor and Dan, thank you. It's again, very good to see that the 2023 is done and you're on track to move forward with 2024. So we'll look forward to an update the next time we meet to see if things are still on track.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay, next would be the town of East Lyme. Do we have First Selectman Cunningham and Finance Director Kevin Gervis with us today?
I'm
morning.
here.
Dan Cunningham here, First Selectman, Town of East Lyme. Good morning.
Good morning.
This is Marcia. I just want to point out I'm not independent with respect to East Lyme.
All right. And Dan and I are in different offices today. I'm quarantining him. He's got a bit of a cold. Dan, do you want me to kick it off or do you want to say a few words?
Let me just say a few words. So, you know, it was a year ago that I took over this job, and of course became aware that there was a long-standing delinquency. 22 was a problem. We cured that. We've worked very diligently on 23. Our goal is to not be on the list of people that you have to focus on, and I think we're on our way to achieving that. Kevin and I, my finance director, we meet weekly on Fridays, and I know that nearly every day he's in touch with the accountants, the auditors, to achieve our goal to be current in the future. So, Kevin, I'll let you take it away from there.
Thanks, Dan. Just to give a status update of where we stand, this past Friday, in conjunction, I believe our auditors, Jessica Aniskoff, our partner, and our director on it, Mike Popham, is on this call as well. They presented us with a draft copy of the financials so we could send it to S&P for our rating agency. Like Dan mentioned, we meet daily with our auditors, sometimes for 2 or 3 hours to go over open items. And weekly meetings with the First Selectman. We update the Board of Finance once a month on the status of our audit. And really right now, we're working on the auditing portion. We've got the accounting portion done. So now it's just going through the audit procedures and trying to tie this up before beginning of April. So I know it's ambitious. I talked with our auditors earlier this week about it. That's a tight turnaround given that there's still some open items. But we're hopeful if we can get this turned around in April, beginning of April, we can hop into 24 as well. So with that, it's really just getting this audit out the door and starting for 24, and trying to get you. Yeah. I think I had a freeze. Did everyone hear me?
Yeah, you froze up for just a little bit.
Just mentioning that, we're trying to get 23 out the door here before the end of March, early April, and turning around 24. Right around, a 5-month lead time for 24 would be Labor Day. So I know Jess, the partner from CLA, and I haven't talked about 24 because we're so focused on 23. But I think we're starting to gain some traction here. Bringing new systems online, and just creating some processes for closing the years and getting these funds balanced in a timely manner.
So with being able to provide a draft of the 2023 audit for S&P, what's outstanding at this point to get this over the finish line? And maybe your auditor can speak to it if need be.
Yep, I can jump online here. So by draft, what we provided were the funds. We haven't provided a full draft yet, so I just want to clarify that. It was the fund statements so that the town could get that over to S&P. So we're pretty much in the middle of doing the audit now that we have balanced funds and they agrees to the prior year fund balance amounts. We're kind of in the thick of the audit. So we are meeting with Kevin on a daily basis, a couple hours a day, just going through all of the audit procedures. So we are making progress. I I mean, I think his time frame is reasonable if we continue at the pace that we're going for 23. And like you said, we haven't really talked too much about 24. We've been focusing on 23.
Would CLA be in a position to, jump on the 2024 right after the 23 is wrapped up?
Yes, and ideally we'd get that done before we go into a busier time, in that August, September, where our busy season starts. So we have the people aside to do that. If we continue at this pace, we can keep doing that. And I think we've learned a lot on the 23 system. It's kind of a tricky system that Kevin's working with. So I think 24 will be a little bit smoother, fingers crossed. So hopefully that will expedite that process.
I'm going to open it up to the commissioners. Ed, you want to go first this time?
Sure. I guess kind of similar as the previous, just on, 24, maybe hopefully looking for the fall. 25 is again right behind that, going forward. Any thoughts on how that might play out go down the road?
If you want, then I can take, so,
Yeah.
we have, so CLA is, we did a 5-year, I believe, 5-year contract with CLA. I think that goes through 24. So, for the 25 audit, I think we'd have to, either put that out to RFP or ask, 25 at the moment. I guess once we get 23 out the door, we'll start, I'll get the balls in motion for 25. I think you guys are lagging out on me.
Right.
Yeah, I think.
I'm sorry, Ed, anything
Yeah,
else?
I think I heard him say that once 23 is done, they're gonna work on an RFP for 25.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Becky?
I don't have any questions, Mike.
All right, Glenn?
I don't have any questions, Mike.
All right, Tony?
I do have a question. So, according to the information we have, 21 was completed in 23, 22 was completed in 24. Looks like 23 will be completed in 25. Seems like there's a similar lag on all of these. What have you done internally specifically to stop this trend and have these become more timely?
Certainly. So, so when I first started here, August of 2022, Ron Nossick, the partner from Bloom Shapiro at the time, recommended to the Board of Finance to add staffing to the finance office. As part of that recommendation, the boards allowed me to hire a deputy finance director. So that position's been filled. In addition to the deputy finance director role, we've hired an external accountant to help us do some reconciliations and get us caught up to speed here. The other thing is, as Jess mentioned, our accounting system, I don't know if anyone here on the call has used MCSJ before, but if you use Munis now, that's a Cadillac compared to this system. So so implementing Munis is a big one. I know at the last meeting, Mrs. Kennison, we talked about implementing ADP. So we are still working towards that. And the goal is to streamline some of these, create efficiencies between accounts receivable, accounts payable, payroll. What'll be a 3-day process to do payroll, starting July will be a 3-hour process. So we are creating efficiencies in the finance office with software. And also the last 2 years, we've been on top of these audits, on top of the day-to-day, we've been implementing Munis. Currently we are implementing Munis, the final stage of it. We're implementing utility billing. So my deputy finance director, 1 or 2 days a week, is on an 8-hour implementation call. Once that frees up July 1st, I think his bandwidth will expand to take on more reconciliations and closing opportunities. So I think it's really just this bottleneck we have of bringing these older systems offline, bringing new systems online, and just bringing us up to speed and to, 2005, I say. It's not 2025 we're trying to get to at the moment. It's just bringing us out of the 90s and 80s for some of these systems. When I first started here, we had carbon copy timesheets. So now we have electronic timesheets. Things are being imported directly into our accounting software. They're not manually entered. So we have made tremendous strides in creating efficiencies in our office. It's just a matter of getting us out of this sludge or the mud right now to get us caught up to speed, really.
That's very helpful. Sounds like you've made a lot of progress. So good luck, and hopefully you'll get there soon.
Knock on wood.
If I may just add to that, taking this problem very seriously, and it's disturbing that we were so far behind, but we've made structural changes by adding staff, better software, a renewed emphasis on curing the problem. So I think we're on the right trajectory. We're going to get there, and hope to be able to give you good news a year from now. So thank you.
Okay, Kim, did you have anything further on this one?
I do. One question is, as you mentioned, your deputy is in the middle of an implementation, and we look at the 2 prior years with June 23rd. June in the 21 audit was completed in June of 23, the 22 in July. So you lost a month. So now instead of making headway in this issue, you actually took you another month to complete it. I would really suggest that you make sure that the FY23 doesn't straggle on to July of 25. You've got to make grounds, and you're not showing that yet. So I would make sure that if you have a goal to get this completed in April and CLA is available to help you, that you really try to make this a top priority so that you can make some headway on in the deliverable of these audits.
Yeah, I agree with you. We want to shrink the timing it takes to get an audit out the door. Originally, I think 20, like you mentioned, 23 was 14 months or 13 months, and it did expand there for 23, for 22, I'm sorry. But our goal is, so if that audit was done right around the 1st of July, and we get this out April, we shrunk it by 2-3 months. And then if we do the same thing for 24, shrink that 2-3 months to get an audit out the door in that 6-month time frame, that would put us in great shape for 25 going forward to get us on track here.
I agree. And so I would definitely make sure that stays on focus. And I'm glad that your auditor is working closely with you through this. So I hope that you're able to make that headway and definitely shorten that timeline.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'd very much like to hear the next time we meet that your 2023 is in and you're underway with 2024.
When's the next meeting?
May
7th.
All right, we will come hell or high water, we'll have that done by May 7th.
Okay. Yeah, please look to make that happen. Thank you to both of you for the updates. And certainly, a lot of progress has been made, and hopefully you're setting the table to, bring this thing to a conclusion, as this year proceeds.
That's our goal, and appreciate your guidance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next up, we have the town of Marlborough. I believe we have town manager David Porter and interim finance director Linda Savitsky. Are you both with us today?
We are. I'm town manager Porter. And since our last meeting, we have hired 2 experienced municipal accountants. They have helped us reconcile the town bank statements relevant to the 23 audit, the Board of Ed records, the Board of Ed grant account, and all of our tax collection reports. They have presented adjusting journal entries, which are being posted, and the fixed assets are also finished and posted. We had initially planned on having CLA on site to do field work the 24th of this month. The town had to postpone that, hopefully very briefly, because these same very experienced accountants are helping us reconcile our sewer benefit assessment receipts, and we're dealing with some issues there that hopefully will be resolved soon. Once complete and all the adjusting journal entries are posted, we look forward to rescheduling that field work with CLA, hopefully, knock on wood, the first 2 weeks of March.
Do you also have Vanessa Rizito on the call?
Yeah, I'm here, Mike.
Vanessa, what are your thoughts on the timeline if you are able to start the field work in March?
Yeah, so we have told Marlboro that we just need a couple weeks notice as to when they'll be ready for us, so we can make sure that we have people available. We have people working on other accounts across the United States right now, so we need a couple weeks to kind of pull them back to work on Marlboro.
Okay. Right. I'll open it up to the commissioners. Tony, why don't we start with you?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Marcia?
I have no questions. Thank you.
Glenn?
No questions, Mike.
Okay. Becky?
No questions.
Okay. Ed?
No questions.
Okay.
I have one, Mike.
Yep. Tim, go ahead.
So in 22, the audit was completed May of 2024. And if your field work is just going to take place sometime in March, I would anticipate that you would not have this audit completed maybe in May. Well, maybe, I don't know how much time it takes to complete the audit. I'm very hopeful that you would be able to complete the audit at least, 1 month less than you did the year before to show some kind of progress. But Vanessa, do you think that that's possible?
To have it start in March and complete in May?
Yeah, before our next
Probably.
yeah,
Yeah, it doesn't sound realistic, Kim.
I understand.
Right. Yeah.
I understand. And so that means that you're going to be slipping further behind. And
Yeah, I
would,
mean, that said, I mean, we did start the audit already, but then it was found that a lot of balances were not reconciled. So we do have some work done. I think there's a very slight chance it may be done by May, but probably not.
With respect to sort of the timeline and the trend toward catching up, I would just remind the members of this committee that 2023 was there is virtually no institutional memory in our organization from 2023. I was not hired until fiscal 24. No, we did not have a finance director in place for most of that year. This was ground zero for the internal staffing issues that are really the genesis of our problem in the first place. So reconciling those accounts, staffing up, finding the right people to help us do that, that is why this audit has taken a lot longer, or I should say preparing, to even get CLA involved has taken a great deal longer than any of us would like. 2024, we not only have institutional memory, I was here, Linda Savitsky was already on board. And so I think that reconciling those accounts and doing the 24 audit will go much, much more quickly than 23 did, where we were really trying to understand and reconcile work that was not performed by anyone currently employed by the town.
Yeah, I do agree that institutional knowledge can be very critical. And so, like we've discussed, ramping up is what you need to get over the hump, right? You need more hands. So I'm glad that you made 2 additional hires. Where do you stand with your a permanent finance director position?
It's a great question. As everyone here is aware, those are few and far between. They're very difficult to find everywhere, including in Connecticut. We are looking to post the job soon, and with the expectation of hopefully finding someone. I'm also sort of beginning some conversations with my counterparts in other communities, particularly stronger ones that have experienced finance directors, about potentially sharing a finance director. So
Well,
don't have anything firm to share today, but look forward to sharing those details as they materialize.
thank you.
Okay, well, thank you for the update, and hopefully by May, things will look quite a bit better, hopefully in regards to where you're at with the 2023 audit.
Thank you.
Okay, next we're going to move on to an update from from Derby. Do we have Mayor DiMartino and Finance Director Brian Hall with us today?
Hello, everyone. Unfortunately, Mayor DiMartino has bronchitis and is quite sick, and he will not be joining us today, so I will be speaking for Derby.
Okay, thanks, Brian. Good to have you with us.
Mike, may I interrupt for a sec? I've got to just identify that I've got a client relationship with Derby.
Okay, thanks, Glenn. Brian, I'll leave it to you if you want to just give us a general update, but as part of it, we are looking to get some update, particularly in regards to the fiscal 2024 audit.
Yeah, no, sure, absolutely. So there's been some staffing challenges at Derby, particularly in the tax collector's office. I don't know how many of you have had the pleasure of manning the tax office by yourself during January, the tax season, but it consumed pretty much all of my time. I was able to bring in a temp to help out with some of the window work, but honestly, that was kind of crazy month of January, just trying to make sure we got all the taxes collected, answer questions for the residents, and keep that going. So unfortunately, that did, hold up some of the work I was trying to get done on the audit and pretty much everything, right? That said, I still am feeling very confident that we're going to get the audit done before the June deadline for the 24 audit. I hope to, we're still actually pretty far along, so it could easily be done in the next month or two, but I'm going to set expectations that we're just planning and getting it done before June. We were able to hire a new tax collector and an assistant tax collector. They started at the beginning of February. So that allowed me to kind of then free up myself and some of that temp help to come up and work on some audit items and just some of the accounting work that had been put to the side while I was sort of manning the tax office. As far as the 24 audit goes, right, I talked a little bit about the timelines. I think the financials look similar as to last time. I'm still hoping to be up $1 million. I think, million, almost $1.2 million. The big outstanding item is just where we're going to net out with the Board of Ed. So, we're going to, as you've noticed, right, one of the problems in the audit has been the reconciliation process between the city and the Board of Ed. We're trying to establish that process now and go back to July of 23 and really build it up. And, we're right in flight of that right now. But I guess depending on where that kind of nets out, I'll start to feel a lot better about reporting on this number. But to me, that's kind of the big wild card right now that I have to work through. The new accounting system, I think there's a lot of things we can do with the new accounting system to help go forward. I think the challenge has been without the staffing in the tax office or honestly in the finance department, we haven't really been able to implement a lot of what they recommend we implement with this new MIP system. So my hope is that now that the staffing stabilized, I can revisit that and it will take out a lot of the manual work that's currently being done in order to reconcile bank accounts and record revenues and things like that just shouldn't have to be done all manually, but currently is being done manually. I think it's the police outside work, they're very close on change. The police contract was about to be approved. So I'm excited that that new contract's going to go into place. We're going to fix the rate problem that we've had that, caused some deficits with the city in the past. But I expect that to get done and signed by the end of the month. And then the new rates will start to kick in March. So hopefully go forward. That sort of takes care of that problem. Other than that, just working on a lot of those deficiencies. Like I said, I was hoping to tackle more of them in this audit period. I think losing January is going to be a problem. And, having talked with our auditor, I just had to get him some information and we just weren't going to have time to do as much of the legwork as I would have liked to have done to fix as many things as I could before it went over to the team to do their work. So I do still expect, I think we did remedy a few of the deficiencies. I think there's still going to be some ones that are going to be there. And we're just going to have to work on that for the 25 audit go forward. As far as ARPA goes, we're all set with ARPA. All the funds have been allocated and spent through the December 24. So really no more concerns with ARPA. That's pretty much done. I don't know if there's anything else you want to discuss, but I'm here to answer your questions.
Just getting back to the Board of Ed reconciliation, is there a concern that ultimately when that's reconciled for 2024 that it'll impact your projected results?
Yeah, there is. I mean, it could be good or bad, quite honestly. So I've sort of picked the middle ground with where I am right now, based on a lot of the cash that went out the door. But depending on how that reconciliation goes, yeah, it could swing plus or minus either way.
And what's happening on that reconciliation front, or what needs to happen at this point?
So at this point, I'm just going to sit down with the business director for the Board of Ed and do the reconciliation with him as far as here's your payroll expenses, which years are they for? Here's how much cash the city sent, and making sure everything's synced up with the operating expense P&L that they sent over, and make sure there's no gaps, nothing got missed or didn't get booked, or there's some geography or other issues with grant accounts. I'm not sure. So we're really, I think at this point I decided we have to really get in the weeds together to figure it out. And so that's the plan.
Okay. How are things going with the budget development for the upcoming year?
Yeah, so there's that to do as well. We have kicked it off. We've got a lot of the budget submissions from some of the department heads, but a lot of the department heads prefer to just work directly with me and build it up together. So it has been a bit of a challenge to find the time to do that, but I'm chipping away at it. I think I'm not, look, I've got a pretty extensive experience doing budgeting, so that's sort of the least of my concerns. I'm pretty confident we can knock that out and get to a good place with that. So, that I think is on track, right? Let's just say, March, April, I don't really have any concerns there.
Okay. All right, I'll open it up to the commissioners. Ed, we'll start with you.
Sure, thanks. I think So I think I'm hearing by the end of June, the 24 audit will be completed. How's things looking as you project forward for 25 and the timeline for that?
Yeah, so I mean, in theory, if I get this done by June or for June, the 25 timeline shouldn't be impacted, right? I think the issue is going to be, again, trying to resolve some of these deficiencies as far as that have been identified that we still need to address, and how that's going to impact the 25 timeline. That would be probably the biggest hindrance to December, getting that done by December and being kind of on track. But at least I won't be behind schedule because I'm working on the 24 audit, so we should be able to hit the ground running. It's just, we have had a lot of staffing issues, and it's, we'll just see how that's going to play out when we're trying to finish up the 25 audit.
So, I mean, so maybe not by December, but maybe sometime, early part of 26 or so. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Q1 20, exactly. Q1 26 would be the goal, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Becky?
Yeah, I do have some questions for you with respect to your pension and OPEB budget numbers. As I look at pension, for instance, for the defined benefit plan, in 24, you budgeted $1 million, but you only contributed 362. You've budgeted $1 million for the current fiscal year, but haven't paid anything year to date. Your 401A plan, it looks like you've been significantly under budgeting. In 24, you budgeted 14 and your actual was 40,000. In the current fiscal year, you budgeted 30,000, but your actual just year to date for half a year is 155. So what's going on with those figures? Looks like you're with the 401A plan have been chronically under budgeting relative to the actual amounts, and they're relatively smaller amounts, but I'm also concerned about significantly underfunding the traditional pension plan. Also feeling like by this time of year, you should know what your actual contribution is for fiscal 26. So can you help me understand what's going on there?
Sure. Yeah, no problem. All right, let's start with the pension. So last year is part of the budget problems that I knew we were going to uncover, and that they hadn't properly budgeted for a lot of the benefits and some of these other expenses, sanitation and things like that. The board decided to reduce the pension contribution from $1 million down to $500,000. The reason why it's only 360 is because a portion of that also gets funded by the WPCA, which you don't see, but net 500,000 went over. As far as this year's plan go, the $1 million, I sent it out actually last week. So that's been funded at the $1 million for this year. Again, a portion of it's going to end up being with the WPCA. So you'll see a little bit smaller number the next time we meet. But that should get us back on track as far as putting in the pension obligation that we're supposed to, and not using it as a lever for any budget shortfalls. Your 401A concerns. So there was a lot of issues with the 401A in that we uncovered there were a lot more obligations related to former Board of Ed employees that were due a 401A payments that had never received them. So a lot of that 150 number you're seeing year to date was a catch-up number from multiple years of underfunding from the Board of Ed. So, these are topics that were all discussed. The money was approved by the Board of Ed. I think we ultimately ended up allocating some of the ARPA funds to cover that shortfall. But, we hope that going forward, now we've got a good handle on who's supposed to be getting funded in the 401A, so that I can budget appropriately in the 25-26 year, which would be the first time that's kind of happened. We were okay up until this Board of Ed issue came to light, and now we've been trying to fix it. So that's what's going on there.
And
there
can
any-
I ask, how does the $1 million contribution to the city pension plan compare to the actuarially determined contribution?
The actual determined contribution was just slightly over $1 million. I want to say like
Okay.
1.5 or something like that, or $1 million and 50,000 or something like that. So it was very close.
Okay. But you're not budgeting the exact amount each year?
It
and
didn't get
contributing it?
budget. Yeah, well, I think we didn't budget that exact amount. You're right. We got close. If it's going to be only within $30,000 or $40,000 in 25, 26, we'll just budget the right amount. But I think some of it's also been the timing of when I get that number is after I've already done the budget. So now we're getting a little more caught up where I actually have the pension done now and all that's been to the auditor. So now I do know what the number is. And
Okay,
it's
so you should I suggest that you talk with your actuary about changing the timing of when they give you the actuarially determined contribution. You should at this point know what your fiscal 25 number is and know what your 26 number is. So, and that enables you to then budget the exact amount because you know the amount in advance of when you start working on the budget.
Yeah,
And that would
we
be a
did
best
get that. And we did get that because this was the first year I was able to, go after it early, right? So,
Okay.
So they got the information they needed on time. They provided their information. So I think we're going to be in good shape for 25, 26.
Okay. And finally, you mentioned that WPCA is paying a portion of the contribution. Is that part of their budget as well? I'm seeing the full amount budgeted under retirement, but if a portion is being paid from WPCA, it probably should be budgeted there as well.
Right. And I do need to fix that, right? So again, that was just something that kind of came up in the audit after the fact. So now that I know, I can kind of adjust it and fix it, go forward. And it makes sense because there are a significant, there's certainly a portion of those pension obligations are related to WPCA. So they should be paying their fair share.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Becky. Marcia?
So my first question just came up as you talked. I thought you weren't allowed to use ARPA funds for pensions. Or is it kind of used it for one-time revenue and kind of worked it around?
Correct. Right. It was under the revenue reduction related to other expenses. However, we had budgeted appropriately for those expenses, so it sort of created extra funds within the general fund to absorb the hit we were going to take for it. So
Got it.
You're right. It was a little bit of a workaround to get there, but
Okay. And then I noticed on the report that your reporting doesn't include encumbrances. Do you use encumbrances, and do you have a report available to you, even though you didn't send it to us, that has encumbrances on it? Because that would be really helpful in your budget.
so we do use encumbrances generally just for sort of expenses, right? They're not set up for payroll. And truthfully, I'm not as confident with that whole process as far as how the team puts in their encumbrances, when the actuals come in, removing the encumbrances. So, given that I'm not comfortable and haven't been able to spend a lot of the time to validate it, I didn't feel appropriate to send it to you. So it is in my reporting. I have looked at it, but like I said, I don't think it's in a place where it's right to send to you, or because you could be making decisions, or you might not understand it the right way, because it's probably not right.
Oh, I understand. I have some departments that do encumbrances really well on July 1st, and some that do it right when they're going to order. So, but it's very helpful in trying to figure out where you land with the budget. And the same question would be, are you planning on doing budget transfers? There were some that look like they're going to be quite a bit over, and some that are going to be under. Do you use that as a tool to help you?
We do. So the last probably 2 weeks or so, I've been in meetings where I've asked for a lot of the transfers created. We're going to start creating this adjusted budget based on the output of all those transfer requests. So that is in flight. It just started in February. We actually meet almost weekly in February with our boat committee. So between the budget and then all these transfers, we're trying to get everything tidied up the next month or two.
Okay, that's the end of my questions.
Okay, thanks, Marcia. I see that Diane has joined us. Diane, did you have a question?
Yeah, I apologize for being late in the middle of budgets here. Quick question on getting back to the purchase orders and the encumbrances. As Marcia mentioned, I mean, it is a very good tool to use to see where you're going forward. And are you, while you might not be comfortable giving us that report, are you able to use it as a tool to see where your expenditures are during the year? Do you have a good policy in place? Are you looking to put in a good policy that your departments are using that functionality the right way?
Yeah, so before I approve any POs, right, I'm looking at the actuals plus the encumbrances in our reporting to just see where it's netting out and to understand again, was this request part of an encumbrance or not? So I am leveraging that where I can to help make decisions. And again, I think it just boils down to having the right time to make sure that these encumbrances get relieved as the actuals come in, and whether that's the directors or my AP clerk, where that communication is let's say not working optimally, still kind of got to fix. Because then at that point, you're right, then we can really start to use it with our reporting and help to project out. But I mean, if the directors are just going to put encumbrances in for the full budget amount, right, it's not as helpful. And I also don't like large encumbrances for generic purposes, because then you don't see any of the details either. So I'm kind of mixed with it right now.
Okay, thank you.
Tony?
Yes, I have a private duty question. Police private duty.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to follow. So I see you have 1.1 million in revenues, roughly, and 940,000, I think 50,000 in the police budget. Is the rest of that for benefits? I mean, do you charge like a I couldn't follow the.
Yeah, so then where it's going to be upside down is when you get down into the benefits section where you're paying on the CMERS, right? A lot of the retirement.
Right.
So that's going to be another big chunk of expenses on the salaries that we're paying. That's going to you'll know, okay, now you're upside down, right? Now you've got less revenue than all of your expenses, and that was ultimately the problem, and that we unfortunately that we had to address it vis-a-vis the contract with the police union because it was in there.
So do you charge you'll charge like an admin fee to cover your benefit expenses or something of that nature?
Yeah, correct. There's a percentage above and beyond the police officer's salary that we would charge. It's just that percentage was far too low historically. So now we're getting it up to a number that allows us to actually not lose money and make a little bit of money to cover some of the administrative costs with trying to collect all these revenues.
So that percentage is actually in the contract?
Correct.
As opposed to giving you the flexibility to charge what you need to charge when they changes?
Correct.
Interesting. What's your outstanding liability approximately? Well,
I think we were, definitely losing couple $100,000 a year, because we didn't used to have this much police work in Derby. There's been a lot of state projects in play. So it really ramped up, and that's when it kind of became more of a problem, right? Let's just say, right? So the more money, then the bigger the issues. So look, I hope it continues on, but likely it's the overall police work is going to start to trail back off again. And
so I'm clear. So it's not the collections that are a problem. It was the fact that you couldn't charge enough for
Yeah, well, it's kind of one and the other, right? If I'm not collecting on it, then I got to charge a bigger VIG to kind of account for the ones I am collecting on. And I think people had always assumed they were going to collect 100% of this, which is just not the case.
That's the case, right?
And two, there wasn't any good collection processes even in place before, recently, where we actually started sending follow-up letters and tracking it and calling people, right? Because just none of that was happening. We send out one
Right.
invoice, you paid it, great. If you didn't,
Yeah, you have to keep on top of that, or you can lose control. Yeah. All right, thank you.
Okay. Kim?
I'm all set. Thank you. Others covered my questions.
Okay. All right, Brian, we appreciate the update. It is unfortunate you lost the month of January, but certainly it's understandable with the staffing issues that you've had. So it's good to hear that those two positions have been filled in the tax office, and hopefully before too long you can lock down that reconciliation with the Board of Ed. It'd be good to certainly have the fiscal 24 audit wrapped up on or before the end of June.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree. And that's the plan.
Okay. All right. Thanks for your time today.
Great. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Next up is Hamden. Do we have Mayor Garrett and Assistant Finance Director Rick Galarza with us?
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
All right, so I'll just get started with a quick update. We put this all in our backup. So we are deep into budget season and preparing to release my budget on March 17th. Then the council takes over and they have to approve a budget by May 17th. We're doing pretty well over here in the finance office. We have an accountant and a junior accountant and deputy finance director. We are recruiting for a finance director, have not really gotten great applicants for that. And the legislative council just allowed me to increase the salary that we offer to between 170 and 175 to see if we can get some talent. We are still working through our audit and we're communicating with our audit team next week to get an update on what our timeline looks like. With regard to ARPA, we have obligated everything for that was completed last December. Most of our ARPA funds are also expended. I submitted an entire update on that, and we do have a few expenditures that are not expended yet, but most everything is expended.
Okay. In regards, you're dealing with a new audit firm?
We are Markham. So we were kind of used to the white glove treatment, and so now Markham is purely online submissions, and so they've asked for a lot more information because they're new to the town, and so we're navigating all of that.
Okay. Do you have any sense on when potentially the audit would be completed?
So we're hoping within the next couple of months, but we'll know more next week.
Okay. Would you be able to provide Kim with an update once you have that information?
Sure. Happy to.
Okay. All right, I'll open it up to the commissioners. Diane, why don't we start with you this time?
So I think my biggest question is, how is your FY26 budget shaping up? I know a lot of us have a lot of challenges with grand list issues, and I'm just interested to hear what your how you're dealing with it and what how it's affecting Hamden's budget.
Yeah, so we filed our grand list on time. The grand list increased by 40%. And so it's a pretty substantial increase. Unfortunately, what we've seen is more of the burden shift to residents from commercial. And so, we have tough choices in our upcoming budget, but it's there's a huge increase to the grand list to work with.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Ed?
Hi, thank you. Just a quick question. Looks like you amended the budget for 25, particularly in department revenues, and I think I was seeing that there was another $2.9 million appropriation from fund balance. Just kind of some background on that.
Sure. So these were all agreements that were made between the Legislative Council and the Board of Education. So that 2.9 was from some, it was put into the capital non-recurring fund for the Board of Education. And this is for the town share of our Hamden High School roof renovation. So we had a pretty substantial fund balance from selling a school in Hamden, and half of that went to the Board of Education's capital non-recurring fund. And then there were some other capital cleanup that we were doing. And so this is revenue that went from the fund balance to the Board of Education's capital non-recurring fund. The way that it was accounted for was in the finance department, and so it's not been used yet. The Board of Education hasn't really put together their request with quotes and everything so that they're prepared to go to the Office of School Construction Grants and Review.
Thank you.
But just to follow up on that, the 2.9 million was appropriated out of general fund balance, or?
Yes, I believe so. Yep.
Okay. Right. And has anything changed with your projected results for 2024?
It's looking more favorable
Than where you were last off, which I think was, you were projecting a 12 million surplus?
Yeah, it's about there. Yep. Yeah.
Okay. All right, Becky?
I don't have any questions, Mike.
Okay. Glenn?
My only question was going to be with that general fund balance. Is the plan to, you said you got a 12 million surplus, is the idea to put that back in and not take it in the next coming budget cycle?
That's correct. But we've also been shoring up some of the other deficit funds that we have as shown in our audit.
Okay.
Marcia?
My question was, how does the system work between you and the Board of Ed? And I asked that question because you've only spent 30% of your medical insurance on the combined town Board of Ed side. And so it just makes me wonder is it manually posted and you just haven't posted all theirs because we don't usually see medical insurance so far under budget.
Yeah, it's manually posted. So they're usually a couple months behind.
Okay. But you balance when you get, do you wait to the end of the year to balance, or do you balance as you go along once you posted it?
Yeah, as we go.
Okay, Tony?
My question actually was covered, but I was just curious as to the mayor's challenges with her revaluation. We had a similar shift, although ours isn't to commercial, and so I know that could be difficult to work through in a budget. Do you have any outreach or any sort of, to help with your budget process?
So with regard to the revaluation, we've held 4 public meetings to go through the reval process. We've posted a lot of information on our town website so that people have the resources that they need if they would like to appeal. And we've tried to be as transparent as possible for our revaluation so that people really understand how Tyler Technologies got to the numbers that they did for appraisals. And then with regard to our budget this year, we are trying to be very trimmed down. I have every single department asking for new positions that I can't put in the budget because we're just trying to be as conservative as possible.
Thank you.
Kim?
I'm all set at this time.
Okay. All right, Mayor and Rick, thank you for your time. Again, if you can provide Kim and Bill with an update on the audit as soon as you have that information, that would be great.
Will do. Thank you.
Okay, the last one today is with the town of Plymouth. Do we have Mayor Kilduff with us? And I think potentially your new finance director?
Yes.
And Mike, just note for the record that Plymouth is a Milliman client.
Okay, thanks, Becky.
Good morning.
Morning.
Thanks for having us again. It's my pleasure to introduce VJ Dora. I was able to bring VJ on middle of December on a full-time basis to be our new director of finance. We had a little bit of a transition period between him and Seth, some overlapping time, so Seth was able to impart as much knowledge to VJ as he was able to before Seth moved on. I was very excited about the hire of VJ, mainly because he does come with over 20 years experience in government. He was in the finance department for Department of Corrections for over 20 years. It's not local, municipal, but at least he does have that, government in Connecticut background that I think will certainly be a help moving forward. So just wanted to introduce you all to VJ. So obviously you brought him on in December and we rolled right into the start of budget season and compiling all of that. So we're still working on that. We did have some, I don't want to say completely unforeseen, but we did have some issues with our technology budget. It's pretty significantly over, mainly because the town over the years has significantly underfunded our technology needs. And it finally caught up to us this year. I had brought on Twin Lakes Consulting to take over our technology department, and they were going to use this year as kind of a technology audit to put together a realistic capital plan moving forward to upgrade our technology systems and infrastructure. And unfortunately, as they were doing that, both of our servers went to end of life stage, so we had to scramble to purchase two new servers and just to kind of keep everything running here. So our technology budget is significantly over budget at the moment. However, at the end of the ARPA cycle here in December, the ARPA committee did allocate our remaining ARPA funds to offset some of that over to offset some of those expenses. That has not been moved over to the ARPA side yet. So the overage the deficit is not as bad as it looks currently on paper right now. That will be moved over. So we are significantly under budget on our medical insurance at the moment, which is a good thing. But that's because we were down at one point. We were down 5 officers. We've since come to full staff, so that is kind of a 1-year deal where we're under budget with our medical insurance. And on the flip side, unfortunately, our medical buyout line has gone over. It looks like for somehow, whatever reason, in last year's budget, there was a typo and it was under budgeted of a fairly significant portion. But again, that'll be offset by the significant surplus in the medical insurance portion. As like a lot of towns have had, we're going to be hit pretty hard with our motor vehicle grand list. We did file an extension, so our grand list is not finalized yet. I spoke to our assessor, who works for 3 different towns. So we're one of those towns that unfortunately has to share an assessor because we cannot find a full-time one. She should have our grand list done this weekend or sometime in the middle of next week. So it will be done, by the end of this month, and that'll allow us to plug those numbers into our budget and kind of see where we're at as far as that's concerned. So I don't have any projected increases for our budget as of yet because we don't have the revenue portion of it. So it's kind of what we're working with as far as this year's budget. I do foresee, based on the preliminary numbers I've seen with our motor vehicle, we're gonna take a pretty significant hit there. Again, not unlike most towns. As far as the audit is concerned, VJ has been in contact with our audit. We've sent over their first few requests from us, and they are reviewing those items currently. We should have, hopefully in the next few weeks, a better idea of when we can expect the 24 audit to be concluded. But I don't have an estimated time frame at this point. Obviously, the goal is June, but I don't know how realistic that is at the moment. So I think it'll depend on how quickly the auditors can turn around the information we provide them. But we haven't nailed down a date for that as of yet.
Are there
So with that,
still
I'd be happy to take any questions for myself or VJ.
Mayor, just in regards to the audit, have they provided a request of everything at this point to you?
I think they provided a first round of information. I know the tax collector information was provided to them actually in the fall. And then I'll actually ask VJ the information that they requested of him. I know that they requested a first round. I'm not sure if it was everything at this point, to be honest with you.
Yeah, they actually sent a list of at least 20 something, 28, 29 items, and we were able to submit at least 7 or 8 of them so far. The remaining, I have to look into the previous file, the previous auditor, the previous finance director has in her drive. So I'll research that, and then I should be able to send them the remaining. But so far, we are marching along well with them.
Okay. And Mayor, did you mention you're going to be meeting with them next week or having a call with them?
Within the next couple of weeks, yes.
Okay.
So as soon as I have an updated timeline, I'll certainly send that along.
That'd be great if you could send it to Kim and Bill.
Of course.
Okay, I'll open it up to the commissioners. Tony?
I have no questions. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, Marcia?
Your ARPA funds, the report you gave us was as of November 18th. I think it was the same one we had last time. But you still had 770,000 that was unencumbered. Was that encumbered by December 31st?
Yeah, so yes, the unencumbered, the unallocated portion was not that high. I'm not sure.
Unallocated was 78, yes.
Yes. So a huge portion of that is actually an item that was given to the, I say given, but allocated towards the WPCA over a year ago to do design work. That was almost half of that. So we went under contract with them in December to make sure that that could be spent. So there were a couple of larger items in that. But yes, that will be, we were able to allocate all of it moving forward. And there shouldn't be anything left once everything gets spent.
Okay. And then you were talking about you've been meeting with the bank and their ICS product. And when you're talking with them, have you instituted positive pay or pay and payee positive pay? Just our own experience that we seem to have instituted payee positive pay just in time.
Yes. Yes, we have positive pay.
And there's a new one, payee positive pay, that you should check out too.
Okay, we'll look into that.
Thank you.
Okay, Glenn?
I don't have any questions, Mike.
Okay, Ed?
Thank you, Mike. Just following up from the last meeting, I know you had that social engineering incident that occurred. I think at that time you indicated probably had recovered about half of the loss. Is there any update on that since we last met?
Yes, so right now the outstanding, our liability right now is a little over $84,000. So we got a complete first payment back and a partial of the second payment that was sent. The bank has not communicated to me yet that they are done looking. I'm assuming that notice may be coming soon, but they are still trying to recover all that they can. I've been in contact with our insurance company, keeping them apprised of the situation. But right now we're at about 84,000, and like I said, some change as a potential loss.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, Diane?
I'm good. I have no questions. Thank you, Mike.
Okay, and circling back to Kim?
Yeah, one question to piggyback off of Ed. When you mentioned that it'd be an $84,000 potential loss, is it covered within the insurance? You mentioned that you've been informed of the insurance, but I wasn't sure if the insurance would cover that loss.
It would, with a $25,000 deductible.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Just had one follow-up. In regards to the ARPA funds, did you bring any of that money into the general fund through the revenue loss?
All of it was revenue loss. We were using under that, but we didn't with the exception of the tech stuff at the end, everything was project based. So we didn't offset any of our operating budget with any of the ARPA dollars. It was almost a lot of capital needs and such, but nothing to offset any individual line items within the operating budget, with the one exception of the technology piece.
The IT, okay.
Yep.
Okay. Well, VJ, welcome aboard. We're hopeful that you'll be able to assist the mayor and the town with moving along the 2024 audit process.
Absolutely, yeah. I'm learning. It's still learning curve for me, but the staff are really good. So, and the mayor is very encouraging. So I'm getting good support from everywhere. So hopefully, I have dealt with state auditors and the federal auditors before. So hopefully, these auditors, I want to follow the same principle, same, attitude towards them. And be able to submit all, have successful audit.
Yeah. And Mayor, just a thought, I would encourage you to speak with your auditors and impress upon them the importance to the town of getting this audit issued. I think you're projecting, June, July timeframe, but the sooner the better.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you.
So last item is other business. I don't know that there's anything specific. Kim or Bill, is there anything you want to cover with the commissioners?
I didn't have anything.
No, just a reminder of the May 7th meeting and that we were planning for the next MFAC 10 o'clock, and we were looking for it to be in person at the Board of Regents. So we hope that we'll get to see everybody in person. This will be a long time.
Has been. That'll be good.
It will.
Look forward to meeting some of you for the first time in person. Okay, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, thank you, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.